Hello and warm wishes to all my fellow Americans, wherever you live, whoever you love, and whatever you believe. My name is John Russo, and this is Stranded in Centerfield. Election day is here. Joe Biden will win. Biden's victory won't be the landslide of Democratic fantasy, but the victory will be substantial. Biden will have a significant lead on election night. President Trump will therefore gain little traction with the stolen ballot narrative that he has promoted to explain why he lost. There is a proverb that explains why Donald Trump will lose re-election, and it goes like this: generals are always prepared to fight the last war. President Trump is fighting the 2016 election again. It won't work. Here are just 5 of the ways in which 2020 is different. First, Joe Biden is not Hillary Clinton. Other than Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton was the single most unpopular presidential candidate ever since we started measuring the popularity of presidential candidates. In 2016, Trump was the shiny new object, and he had no record of performance or lack of performance in office. Undecided voters, tired of the Clinton drama and machine and looking for change, could look at the excitement of Trump's rallies and think to themselves, well, why not? In 2020, however, Donald Trump is the incumbent in the worst economy since the Great Depression. His argument has come down to, everything is terrible and scary right now, but none of it is my fault, and the other guy will make it worse. That's a very different case to make than, what have you got to lose? Now, because so many people have lost so much in the pandemic, there are large numbers of former Trump voters who have answered that question, what have you got to lose, in ways that frankly don't reflect well on President Trump. Second, Trump's October surprise, the Hunter Biden emails gambit, has failed. A surprise can only be a surprise the first time you surprise someone with it. In 2016, Trump was able to use the words in Hillary Clinton's stolen emails to remind people of why they didn't like her in the first place. But you can't unwrap a gift twice. The clear involvement of foreign players like WikiLeaks in the 2016 election, together with the revelations of the president's summer 2019 attempt to get a foreign government, the Ukraine, to investigate Biden and thereby influence the 2020 election, have effectively inoculated Biden against any allegations involving emails. Outside of the president's base, the general reaction has been, sure, of course, what a surprise, emails again. It's kind of like when Dad gets a pair of socks again at Christmas. What a surprise. Third, it was a tactical error to hold mask-free and carefree rallies in battleground states while coronavirus cases and hospitalizations were spiking in those very states and where vast voter majorities have already disapproved of President Trump's handling of the pandemic. Again, the president is doing in 2020 what worked in 2016. Back in 2016, he needed the free local media that huge rallies provided. It was the right approach in 2016, but it was the wrong approach in 2020. As president, he no longer needs to tour the Trump show to get attention. And instead, many undecided voters concerned about the virus, who may have otherwise been unsold on Biden, are now going to vote against President Trump due to the perceived recklessness of these rallies. Fourth, the president and his team, his chief of staff, Mark Meadows especially, have now told the country that we will not even try to control the spread of a deadly, sometimes fatal virus. This flies in the face of belief in American exceptionalism and the can-do spirit that lies at the heart of the American character. On March 18 of this year, President Trump declared himself a wartime president and asked that Americans sacrifice together. But exactly 30 days later, having apparently lost interest in winning the war, the president was tweeting, "Liberate Michigan," to support armed protesters who refused to make the most minimal sacrifices necessary to win the war he claimed he was prosecuting. 30 days. That's all it took. The Nazi bombing of British cities lasted 8 months. Now, I know Donald Trump loves to compare himself to Winston Churchill, but can anyone imagine Churchill saying after 30 days, that's enough of evacuating our children to the countryside. They need to get back to school. And sleeping in the underground, we can't be doing that forever. We have to reopen our economy. We can't hide in the basement of the subways. We have to get back to normal. And the bombs, they're really not so bad. That's all the radio people want to talk about, though. The bombs, the bombs, the bombs. It's a hoax. Can anyone possibly imagine Churchill saying such a thing? Now, in normal times, draft dodging Donald Trump, comparing himself to Winston Churchill, would actually be kind of laughable. Under the circumstances, with more Americans dead than in World War I, Korea, and Vietnam combined, it's actually embarrassing and pathetic. Senior citizens, most of whom came of age in the afterglow of America's victory in World War II, remember very well a time when America could seemingly tackle any challenge, surmount any problem. This group voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump in 2016 precisely because he promised a restoration of that optimistic vision of an America that could triumph over any challenge. Waving the white flag of surrender from the White House regarding this pandemic is not only especially dangerous to that voting bloc of seniors, it is utterly at odds with that group's post-war belief in America's superiority and exceptionalism. And this leads me right into reason number 5 why Biden will win. And that is the erosion of Trump's strong support among seniors. Almost daily since the spring, Trump and his acolytes have accused Joe Biden of being senile. Now, anyone who, like me, has dealt with an elder who is beginning to experience memory loss can tell you that they do not want to gladly accept their decline. And in many cases, they resent the slightest suggestion that they may have lost a step. Even a subtle politician would have had a difficult time walking the tightrope of charging a senior citizen opponent with dementia without touching a nerve in millions of elderly voters. Now, there are many descriptions for President Trump's communication style, which has been very effective in many ways. But all those adjectives, not one of them includes subtle. Now, to make matters worse for the president, COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations have spiked dramatically in many of the swing states in the fall, right before the election, just as the epidemiologists and infectious disease specialists had predicted. So unlike 2016, when Donald Trump was able to command an overwhelming majority of one of the most solid of voting blocs, senior citizens, he will be lucky in 2020 to win that group at all. Donald Trump barely won Florida in 2016. He won it by 1.2%. He cannot win re-election without Florida. We'll see how Florida, Arizona, and other swing states with large senior populations turn out for the president when he has less of a cushion among seniors. And finally, whether you find him lovable and strong or hateful and incompetent, we can all agree that America has never had a president quite like Donald Trump. Ironically, however, his sloganeering is not particularly original. The silent majority, law and order, even the idea of the press is the enemy are all lifted straight from Richard Nixon's 1968 presidential and 1970 midterm campaigns. Likewise, Trump's most famous act of pilfering is MAGA itself. In 1980, Ronald Reagan ran on the slogan, "Let's make America great again." Of course, President Trump took out the word let us, because he said, only I can turn things around. And this is, if nothing else, an administration that is based entirely around the personality of the president. Recently, however, President Trump has been denying the clear deterioration of the country's situation regarding the coronavirus by saying that America is rounding the corner. We're rounding the corner on the pandemic. I actually wonder whether he's aware of the last sitting president who used such a phrase when he was in the middle of a dreadful crisis. Well, it was Herbert Hoover. Hoover refused to use the power of the federal government to attack the mass suffering of the American people during the worst of the Great Depression. Herbert Hoover's failure to use presidential authority to fight a national crisis and to leave it to the governors and the private sector was widely ascribed at the time to, wait for it, a lack of empathy. And it led to his crushing reelection defeat in 1932. The Democrats went on to win 7 of the next 9 presidential elections, running against the party that they tagged as Herbert Hoover's Republicans. Now, when Herbert Hoover addressed the American people about the economic crisis in the Great Depression, it's attributed to him that he said, "Prosperity is just around the corner." Sound familiar? Democrats will be running and mostly winning against Donald Trump's Republicans until at least 2050. The policy, social, and tactical failures of this administration will linger in the public's mind for at least that long. Only time will tell whether the Democrats can fashion a governing ethos that is more responsible and produces more unity in this country than Trumpism. Trumpism sought to destroy an essential principle at the heart of our national credo. Going forward, let's hope both parties and all of us recommit ourselves to the principle of that credo, which was given to us by the founders of this nation. E pluribus unum, or from the many, we are one. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Please leave your civil comments and suggestions below. This is John Russo saying, I'm not stranded, and neither are you. There are millions of us Americans standing together here in Centerfield. Until next week.